Hi, everybody. This is Tatiana, and welcome to the Tatiana Show. Tonight, I have a really exciting guest. I'm very happy to bring on a very good friend of mine, Connie Gallippi. Connie and I met basically at my first real major Bitcoin event, and I don't know, she's the founder and executive director of BitGive, and of course, she's my good friend. So, I'm happy to welcome Connie Gallippi from BitGive.
Hello.
Hi, Connie. Cool. So why don't we tell everybody a little bit about how we met? But before we get to that, let's start at how did you get involved in Bitcoin?
Oh, okay. I always hate that being the first question, but it makes sense.
Well, I'll tell you how I got involved in Bitcoin, and then you can tell me because it's related to you.
Okay.
No pun intended. Um, when I was singing for the Liberty movement, and back in August of 2012, I was doing a Ron Paul event down in Tampa. And Tony Gallippi and Steven from BitPay came and they supported me. They sponsored me to come down there. And then they introduced me to the concept. They tried to explain it for 3 hours. And I was mildly interested. But finally I was like, here, just take some money and leave me alone. Just get me some Bitcoin. I don't know, but I'll just put it away because I had.
Take my money and leave me alone? I'm guessing a lot of people would like to hear that.
Well, I trusted them because they were actually, yeah, that is kind of funny that I was trusting them because who knows what they were going to do with it. But yeah, I let them buy me some Bitcoin, and then I just let it sit for a while, and basically I got a lot more interested in it when it went up 10 times in value. So that was
Oh,
really
yeah.
but I didn't go to my first event until October in Atlanta, and that was 2013, which was Jeffrey Tucker's event, and I also played at BitPay there. So I think the
Nice.
first time that we met was in Argentina, but was it in Atlanta?
Now it was Argentina.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah, at the dinner, the first dinner before the conference even started.
mm.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved in Bitcoin?
Well, so I guess it makes a lot of sense now that you just told that story. So my brother is Tony. So Tony introduced you to Bitcoin. He introduced me to Bitcoin. So it wasn't really part of my plan, though, to be like directly involved in the Bitcoin industry or do anything besides be his sister and be really supportive of him and what he was doing. So, he really, it's not like he, seriously evangelized me or anything. He just was doing what he was doing, and I was, exposed to Bitcoin through his efforts with BitPay and his interest in Bitcoin. So, yeah. So basically, what happened was I went to the Bitcoin Foundation had their first conference in San Jose in 2013 in California, and I live in California, and my brother's on the East Coast, so when I knew that he was going to be out here, I wanted to go see him. And it was right after they had just gotten their first round of funding, and they hired some staff, and they had a big booth for the conference, and it was just a big exciting time for them. So I really just went to be a part of that. And when I was there is when it really hit me, like what the potential really was for this. And that to me it seemed like being immersed in the energy and surrounded by the people. I had never really been in that atmosphere before with Bitcoin. And it became very obvious to me how huge it was going to be, and that it was going to be the next dot-com boom was pretty much my feelings at the time. It was just pure excitement, and still is what I think. So and so when I realized that my career until I started BitGive was in the environmental field and working with nonprofits, and a lot of what I did was try to help funding for them for their projects. So when I saw the potential for what this could be, my immediate thought was that there needed to be a philanthropic foundation that gave back on behalf of the community, and I didn't know whether that was already happening, so because I was new to the industry. So I pitched the idea to Tony and to Steven, and they thought it was a great idea, and that just started the whole domino effect, and here we are almost at our second anniversary. So
I mean, I think you've really brought a lot of professionalism. How do you feel you
Thank
were
you.
able to kind of get that off the ground with BitGive? Can you walk people through a little bit what that process was like? Because we all see the fruits of your labor now, but it's been a very long and difficult process to kind of get things going. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it has been. So it has been over 2 years, actually. I mean, technically our anniversary is at the end of July from when we launched the organization, but as many people know, a lot of work goes into doing something before you actually launch. So we really started everything in May of 2013. So it's been over 2 years and a lot of work. Um, the very first thing we did after I sat down and really fleshed out, the vision and the mission and what sort of the pillars were going to be for the organization, and put together some materials so that I could share that with people. The very first thing we did after that was do a lot of research into how to establish the organization, like what would make the most sense as far as what the desired purpose of the organization was. How do you even, how do you incorporate something that's global? Where's the best place to do that? What are the different kinds of regulations and things that are, we would have to be considering and that would apply to something where we're taking in money from all over the world in this new digital currency, and we're wanting to do work around the world as well. There's not, very many organizations that do that. So it was really a very interesting process from the beginning. And I immediately knew I needed an attorney. So that was probably the first thing we did was Tony. I had to push him, to really be very strong about the fact that, I really need to talk to an attorney because I want to set this up right. And I need to talk to someone who knows what they're doing and figure out how to just get things going in the right direction from the beginning. So we did that. So Tony introduced me to Patrick Merck, who probably a lot of people know, but most recently was the executive director of the Bitcoin Foundation. And prior to that, did a number of other things. He is an attorney. So he didn't know how to help us. He doesn't know nonprofit law, but he said, I will find you someone that will help you. And he connected us with Perkins Coie. So Perkins Coie ended up helping us get just all the initial stuff done.
Right now, I recently learned about BitLicense here in New York, which I had sort of just been pretending wasn't happening, and then I guess it's finally happening. So I went to a class, and it was really shocking to me. I mean, I guess I'm the last person to the party, but how ridiculously vague the regulation is, and the attorney that was doing the presentation didn't have answers to most of the questions that people were asking. That's how vague it was. So
wow.
You were doing this before BitLicense was even a twinkle in someone's eye,
Yeah.
Lofsky's eye. So how did you even have any clue how to proceed? I mean, you had really good counsel, and you're very fortunate for that, but how did you even know which way to do it? Were there any kind of special things because it was Bitcoin that you had to worry about?
Yeah, this was 2 years ago, so everyone was figuring it out, and we still are, as an industry. But back then, there was a lot less done and a lot less figured out. So we were truly pioneering, and especially in the nonprofit realm, like there really hadn't been any. There are some nonprofits in the Bitcoin industry that were around before us, but there weren't any that had approached this legal process of filing, actually incorporating at the federal level, and then we also filed with the IRS to have our tax exempt status. So we were really blazing the trail, and it was early days in Bitcoin, and nobody knew anything about what they were doing, let alone how it applied to nonprofits. So we were really lucky to have Perkins Coie. They did everything pro bono, which was tremendous. And we had one of their best lawyers who had been doing nonprofit law her entire career and had many feathers in her cap. So she knew the nonprofit law. And then we had another attorney from Perkins Coie who was sort of at the leading edge of Bitcoin law. And so they worked together on what was the best strategy for us and applied both of their expert knowledge bases And, we kind of all just tried to figure it out. And honestly, it was on a hope and a prayer that the IRS would actually approve a global foundation in Bitcoin working on a global scale with a tax exemption. There were times when I thought to myself, because it took us 9 months to get the approval. We thought
That was
it
a
was
little
actually,
longer than you thought, right? Because I remember when you were going through that, you were thinking, is this ever going to go through? And I didn't know
yeah,
either.
it really took forever. And the attorneys did warn me that at shortest it would take 6 to 9 months, and it could take up to a year and a half, even 3 years. We were hearing horror stories of other nonprofits just not even in Bitcoin it was taking 3 years. And so we thought, gosh, if that's the case and we're dealing with this new cryptocurrency that no one knows what to do with, and this was prior to any of the IRS guidance that had come out or anything, right? So we thought, we're going to get stuck. It's going to take years. And there were times when I thought, even if we wait for years and we get an answer, the answer could be no. So sorry, my battery's going dead. Hang on a second. So there were times when I thought, gosh, all this work, all this time waiting, all this patience, and we could get an answer that's no, because we're working with Bitcoin and we want a tax exemption on a global level. It's a U.S. organization, obviously, but we filed with, very clearly saying we want to operate on a global scale, and we're going to have funding coming in from all over the world too, which is really difficult to deal with, especially in Bitcoin. So now the IRS has changed their whole process, and it's much easier for a new startup nonprofit. But that wasn't the case when we filed. So it took a long time. But when we did finally hear at 9 months, it was actually a surprise, and we thought it was definitely sooner than we had expected, because they did not ask us any questions. So normally, if they don't have any questions, they just do their process and you're done. If they have questions, then your process is extended for months to go back and forth and answer all their questions. We fully expected that to happen, and it didn't. So it was actually really exciting when we did hear.
Well, plus you were working full time during that time. I mean, you were really burning the candle on both ends. So, I mean, I don't know if this would have happened without. That's incredible that so many great people came together, and you're very fortunate that they were able to give you that legal advice, because it can get so expensive. That was one of the things.
It was very expensive, actually. I mean, we didn't have to pay for it, but we did get a bill because it was an in-kind donation, so they were documenting it. And it was like $25,000 worth of legal work that they did entirely pro bono. I mean, there's no way we would be here without that, because we did not have that kind of money to establish the organization if we had to pay for it.
So what are some of the different projects that you've gotten involved with, and have you been just signing up? I mean, how does it work? So do you find a project that you like, or do you sign up an organization to take Bitcoin first? I know you've been working pretty closely with BitPay. They've really been pushing for a lot of charities to sign up to accept Bitcoin, which I think is awesome. Elizabeth Cloche is doing a great job over there. But maybe tell me a little bit about, where does BitGive fit into all that?
Great. Well, so we depending on where we're looking to work and who the organization is, it's different each time. We're hoping to have a better process that we set in place in the long run, when we have a field that we're operating in that's somewhat consistent. But right now, because it's such an early time in the industry and the technology, we pretty much handle each campaign or each relationship one-on-one basis. So for example, like when we very first started, our first campaign was with Save the Children, and they're huge global organization that's been around forever. Obviously in 2013 they were not accepting Bitcoin, right? So
they probably didn't even know what it was.
No, exactly. So we approached them, and started that relationship, and they were very open to it, and which was great. They, didn't have to be. And, you know, we ran a campaign for them for the Philippines typhoon relief, and then just carried through with that relationship for quite some time. And they had a lot of questions, and they were very curious about how we were handling things, because obviously they, being a long-standing organization, have all the regulations and things that they have to follow, and curious about how to do that with Bitcoin, right? So we had a lot of conversations with them about how we were figuring it out, you know, as the first, you know, 501c3 in Bitcoin, like how are we doing this? Like, what are we, you know, how are we handling all the regulations and oversight and paperwork and accounting and all those things? So they got, you know, we got to be really quite close with them, and they're a really good crew, and they felt a lot more comfortable with everything after, you know, talking with us for some time. And then they did eventually start taking Bitcoin directly. They were really excited to do that in time for Bitcoin Giving Tuesday last November. So they signed up with BitPay, and BitPay had been talking with them as well. So they had a relationship there too. And so that was pretty cool. And then, you know, completely different though was our next campaign, which was with the Water Project, and they had already announced that they were accepting Bitcoin, and their president had put out this awesome message that everybody should read. If anyone who's interested in Bitcoin and nonprofits and charity work should read this. It's called Welcome Cryptos. And he put it out in, I think it was very early 2014. And they, you know, he's just a huge fan of cryptocurrency and of Bitcoin, and he really sees how it benefits nonprofits, and specifically their work, where they have most of their fundraising and administration and staffing is in the US, but all of the work they're doing is in sub-Saharan Africa. So they have to get, the majority of their funding has to get over there and is used to build water projects. So so when we did the campaign with them, they were already familiar with Bitcoin, already accepting it directly, and so we worked with them more so in you know, raising the funds for the project and raising awareness for their work within the Bitcoin community, and kind of bringing them into the space, ushering them into the space. So.
And how much did you guys raise, and what were the results of that campaign?
So that campaign was our largest to date, and we had a goal of 10,000, which would fund an entire water well, which is why we set that amount. And we ended up, it took us a little while to do it, but we ended up raising more than that. So it was like over $11,000 when we were done. And we did build the well. It just got completed, and it went in at a girls' school in Western Kenya, in a really remote area near the town of Kakamega, but still about an hour from from the closest town, really. And I got to go there and see the project, and it literally changed my life. So.
Well, you have a video out about that trip to Kenya. That actually, it would be great if we could show it, but I don't think I have the technical ability to. And plus, we're broadcasting on Let's Talk Bitcoin. By the way, Let's Talk Bitcoin has a magic word. What's the magic word? It can't be BitGive, because that's too obvious.
Am I supposed to make it up?
Yes, make it up quickly.
Oh. Gosh. How about auction? Because we're running an auction right now.
Okay, so the magic word is auction. We're going to tell people how to participate in it, because it ends on, I think, July 22nd. So we've only got a couple more days. Hopefully we can get this up on LTB by then. And anyway, so auction is a magic word.
Something different?
No, I like auction. It's good. We're keeping that.
Okay.
And then the other, so basically you did a really amazing video showing your trip down in Kenya. And I remember when you came back, you were so moved by the experience that you had made a very personal blog your night of, and you were wondering if you should share it with people. But I thought that your genuine emotion was so, it allowed me to really connect with your experience. So did you ever end up putting that up?
No, I only shared it with like my mom and you, and I think that you may be the only two people that have seen that.
I think that you should share it, because it really gives people a feeling of what it's like to use Bitcoin and to make such a tangible difference in people's lives. the beautiful video that they put together, the water project, they edited something together. They brought down that camera crew. That's great. What was the most memorable moment that you had when you were there?
Oh my gosh, that's hard. That
Tough
would be
questions on
really
the Tatiana
hard.
show.
Yeah, that's, I mean, gosh, there were so many. I don't know if I could choose one. Gosh, yeah, I mean, three come to mind, at least right off the top of my
Okay, we could
head.
do three. We've got time.
Okay, I'm like, I can't choose one. So the first one that came to mind was when the water started to flow. We were there when they completed the well and the water actually started flowing. And the girls were all there, and we were out in the field in front of the school, and they were just all singing and dancing for hours and hours. I mean, the sun was going down because we got there in the afternoon, and we actually did not expect the girls to be there because it was a Saturday. And so we had really just gone to kind of scope things out for videoing on Monday, and then it ended up just this whole thing unfolded just completely unexpectedly, that while we were finishing the well, there was this whole celebration that just unfolded. And I need to put some more videos up on our YouTube channel, but I think we did tweet a couple of videos of the water just starting to flow with the guys pumping the first pumps out of the well, and the girls all, singing and dancing and running around in the field. They were singing these songs about cleaning and mopping and washing and drinking. I mean, they were so happy about mopping that they were making up songs about it and
They
singing
made it
them.
up on the spot all together, or did they have this prepared? That's so cute.
I don't know if they had it prepared or not. I mean, maybe, because obviously the well was being constructed for some time, so that they knew it was happening. But
Do you think that's the best thing that happened there? Because, we take running water so for granted, and it's like totally, it's not something I think about. But you said that the girls had to walk over a mile, and then there was a 9-foot python in the same water where they were getting their
yeah.
water from.
Oh, the stories are horrendous. So yes, before this well, what was happening was the girls would all bring water from their homes in the morning, and they don't have water at home. So they're gathering it from wherever the closest stream is to their home, and then they all walk to school. And this is a very, very remote community. People do not have cars. The roads are not paved. I mean, it's very, very different than anything we're used to. And so they're walking kilometers with giant bottles of water. Some of them were walking up to 6 kilometers to school, carrying these giant bottles of water with them every day. And then when they got to the school, they would all combine the water, and they have to boil it because it's just filthy. They were boiling it in these giant, like, witchcraft type, cast iron pots inside what they called the kitchen, but it was basically a shack that could have been falling over. And they boiled the water in these giant pots on top of just regular firewood, inside of a building. So there's like all this smoke. I mean, it's just completely unhealthy situation. This was the water they would use for washing their hands, cooking their lunch, drinking water, whatever they needed throughout the day at the school. And it wasn't that enough water. So in the afternoon, they would have to stop their classes and go get more water. And that's where the snake is. So the closest stream to the school, I think it was about 2 kilometers away. So they all would get their bottles, walk to this stream. It took them an hour to go there and to come back. So they're missing all of that time from their classes, right? And yeah, in this stream, so we went to visit the stream, and it's a community watering hole. I mean, everybody comes there for their water. The water is brown, like you definitely cannot see through it. And people were coming, while we were there, were coming and pulling their cars like literally into the stream and washing them, and motorbikes, just rolling them right up into the stream and washing the oil and the gasoline and the soap and everything into the stream, which is also where they're getting their drinking water. And then come to find out, there's apparently a snake that lives in the river there that is 13 feet long and black, which I don't know, but they were saying that in that area, a snake of that size that's black is probably a python. And the snake comes out when the girls are getting their water sometimes. And these are young girls. I mean, this is not, it's not like grown women. Even still, I would be scared to see a python if I was getting water out of a stream. So,
yeah, that doesn't sound very good. What about the maintenance on the well? Because a lot of times when people hear about putting a well into such a remote area, that it's really hard to maintain. So,
yeah,
how does the water project handle that?
Right. Very good question. So, typically what they have to do is rely on the people who are using it to let them know if something goes wrong. Then they have to send people out there to check on it, see if they can figure out what the problem is. Then they have to go get the parts or whatever and come back and fix it. And so sometimes this could take weeks, right? And that entire time they don't have water. So what they've been doing now is they started a new program called Water Promise, and our well is on this program, which is really cool. And it has a remote sensing unit on the well, so we can tell at any time whether the water's flowing or not. If it isn't, then we know there's a problem, and someone can go out there. And there's also part of the Water Promise program has funding set aside for the maintenance of the well for 5 years. So that's also been a problem of like people raise money to build a well and then there's no money to maintain it. That can be a problem, obviously. So
how many people can use the well? I mean, does the water ever run out or whatever?
No, I mean they recommend that it serve up to about 500 people. So, and that's a lot of people. And given that most folks around there don't have vehicles, it pretty much limits the geography as to how many, who can really walk to it from, they walk pretty far, but, it's also a pretty remote area, so it's not like a densely populated area. But it does serve the girls' school, and then it also serves the primary school, which is next door, and then it serves the whole surrounding community, whoever can walk there. So it's definitely, we talk about the school a lot because they applied for the project to come there, right? So it's technically their project, and they have a water committee that develops the whole project and the relationship with the water project, and that they're responsible for the maintenance of it and all that stuff. But it serves many more people than just the girls' school.
So I have a question: are they using Bitcoin, or is there any, are they aware of Bitcoin other than thanks to the well?
Yeah. Well, they are. I think for them it's pretty difficult to understand, of course, and it's really not all that relevant or applicable to them. Their most important thing to them is getting clean water, and they were very sick all the time because they didn't even have water. So I think a lot of times we talk about how Bitcoin can help, the unbanked and the underbanked and the people in the developing world. I talk about it all the time too. But I think that obviously in these areas where they don't even have water, and it, like having a girls' school is a very rare thing. Like this is the first generation where girls even go to school, and they don't all get to go. This is a very unique school in the sense that it was, was spearheaded and founded and built by people who wanted to see it happen. So, they're really focused on the bare essentials of life, So Bitcoin to them is pretty esoteric. However, the people who are running the school, like the principal, the teachers, the people, the adults basically who brought this project to the school, most of them at least have cell phones, right? a really remote area, so there's not much going on. But many of the administrators and teachers actually come in from other towns and other places in the region and come there to serve these girls and to teach these girls. So they're a little more sophisticated. They have cell phones. And so the principal, Juliet, who has become my friend and actually texts me from her cell phone. I wake up some mornings and I have a text from Kenya. It's kind of insane. And so she, her and her husband have cell phones, and they're texting me from Kenya. So I actually did send her Bitcoin through BitPesa, and they convert it to shillings so that she can do something with it. Because so what's she going to do with Bitcoin? Yeah, so I sent her money. Just personally from me, because I was sending it to her personal M-Pesa account, so it wasn't a BitGive donation. But I sent it through BitPesa in Bitcoin. It went to her phone and they converted it to shillings. It all happened in an hour and a half from California to a very remote place in Kenya. She had money on her phone that came from Bitcoin. Yeah.
So I'm not that familiar with BitPesa versus M-Pesa, and in general, I think that people are always talking about, Africa and different third world countries could really benefit. There's so many unbanked in the world, but from what you're telling me, that hasn't really caught on like wildfire. What is the difference between the BitPesa and the M-Pesa, and are those only for Kenya? I know they're not your projects, but maybe you have like a general understanding.
I can definitely describe it pretty generally. So you raised a couple different questions. So one is what is M-Pesa? So M-Pesa is a system that is in Kenya. It's pretty prolific throughout their culture and their daily lives, and it's using cell phones to have digital cash. It's not Bitcoin, it's not cryptographic, but it's basically like you can walk up to the mom and pop shop where you buy your soda, you can hand them shillings, and they will put them on your phone, basically. And M-Pesa is the company that basically facilitates that. Like you can set up an account with them that your digital shillings then go into.
Didn't they used to be cell phone minutes or something like that?
Yeah, so what was happening was people were trading cell phone minutes as value. And M-Pesa is part of the Safaricom, which is basically the cell phone coverage operator there. And they basically capitalized on this, and they were like, well, if people are trading our minutes as value, like we should create a system that actually allows them to put cash into that system and use digital cash instead of trading cell phone minutes. So that's what started the whole thing. Now, there aren't very many, if any at all, systems like this anywhere else. So it's very unique. But at the same time, it's prolific, and it's everywhere it's totally embedded in their culture. And everywhere you go, you see M-Pesa. Now, this is in the more developed areas like Kakamega town, where we stayed, and where the water project's local partners are and have offices and can buy the parts for the wells and things like that, is a much more developed area. It's still Western Kenya. It's still not even close to Nairobi, but it's at least a developed urban area. M-Pesa I did not see when we were out in the very remote parts of where the school is and stuff like that.
What percentage do they take off of that? Like, what's their cut for administering that? Because I think that BitPesa is a little bit different, but does better on that rate.
Right. Okay. So I don't know exactly what they charge for M-Pesa, but I do know that they're kind of taking advantage of people because they know that people were already using the system. So they figured out a way to, charge a fee and provide a service. And they kind of have I wouldn't say a 100% monopoly, but they pretty much do have a very strong lead on providing that service in Kenya through Safaricom and M-Pesa. I don't know what the charges are, though. I think they're probably higher than they should be. You know,
Okay,
assuming
well,
that,
whatever.
yeah.
Let's just say, of course, they should be compensated, but they're the only game in town. So because there's
Right.
no competition, they're going to take advantage of it. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. But you asked about what the difference is with BitPesa. So what BitPesa is a Bitcoin company. So M-Pesa is completely not Bitcoin, right? Um, BitPesa is a Bitcoin company. It's basically like a remittance slash exchange in Nairobi, and they serve Kenya. They're also expanding beyond Kenya now. So they just raised another round, and they have a plan to go um, to other countries in Eastern Africa, but they're also looking at Western Africa. So um, hopefully they'll be expanding. But what they do basically is they allow you to use the M-Pesa system, but not have to have physical shillings and be in Kenya, right? So it basically opens it up to Bitcoin rails from anywhere in the world coming into this M-Pesa system. And so that's what I did when I sent money to Juliet, the school principal. Was she has the M-Pesa on her phone. Actually, she didn't, but she went and got it so that I could send her money. Because I told her she wanted me to use Western Union. And I was like, oh gosh, Juliet, don't make me do Western Union. So I told her, I said, if you can get an M-Pesa account, I don't want to inconvenience you, but if it's easy enough, I can send you Bitcoin. And what that means is it will get there a lot faster. You don't have to go anywhere and stand in line to get it. And we'll have that much more money to spend on the girls' clothes. I was sending her money to buy the girls' clothes. So she got it immediately. She's like, okay, I'm going to go get an M-Pesa account because I want to spend the money on the girls, not, on Western Union. So basically that's what it allows, though. It allows for people to send money in Bitcoin from anywhere in the world to someone who has an M-Pesa account instead of them having to be physically there with their shillings at the soda pop shop, right? I mean, very different.
That's really incredible. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you were able to do that, and also that the community was able to rally behind you. I mean, obviously, it's not just you, it's everybody is able to
Yeah.
kind of participate in that. And what I like about the Kenya video is that it really shows just, a peek behind the curtain of what the real true impact is. What are some of the projects that you're doing
Yeah.
right now? We talked about the auction. Maybe you could tell people about that because it's
Yeah.
running out.
Yeah, so we're doing an auction right now for our second anniversary, and it is going to be closing on Wednesday, the 22nd. So depending on when this airs, maybe you guys can get some final bids in. But we have, gosh, over 60 items and services that were donated from throughout the industry. All kinds of interesting things, not just Bitcoin things, but things that might interest people outside of the Bitcoin community too, like jewelry and watches and press releases and design
Amazing
services
music.
and beautiful music from a beautiful woman named Tatiana. So yeah, and then we do have a bunch of Bitcoin things too. Like we have Cassatius coins that aren't being made anymore, so they're collector's items. We have a Bitcoin cufflinks, which is tied as my favorite with the Maui condo. So yeah, some really cool stuff. We also have some autographed books, like Andreas's book, Mastering Bitcoin. We have several copies that he autographed that were donated by Zapchain. We have several copies of the Wall Street Journal Age of Cryptocurrency books, too. So we have all kinds of things. And basically everything was donated. So everything we make from the auction and people bidding on the items comes to BitGive as a fundraiser. So we're really excited about it. It's been going we started it on the 8th, so I think it's about 2 weeks. When we close, it'll be a total of 2 weeks.
I think that you guys should extend it. I don't know if we're giving people enough time to get in, but I think it's wonderful. I know that one of the challenges as the price has gone down is to continue to have people donating. I mean, people are always saying, oh, great job, but I mean, that doesn't exactly build well in Kenya. What are
Yeah.
some of the things, what are your thoughts on that? And why is it important for people to donate to BitGive? Because obviously that's what I think. I think it's a really great PR move. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yes. Well, so I have heard this from people about the PR, and obviously it makes perfect sense. It's certainly not why we exist. It's a philanthropic organization that does charitable work. But by doing so, I mean, it's a direct link to having positive stories that are associated with Bitcoin. We've already had many stories in mainstream press talking about what we've accomplished with Bitcoin and BitGive. So, there's a lot of negative stories about Bitcoin, and I think people still, either have only heard of it when they associate it with the Silk Road or somebody getting arrested or, whatever, negative things. And that's really unfortunate. But I think we've been able to counter that really well with positive stories about how it actually can help people. There's a lot of talk about how Bitcoin can change the world and how Bitcoin can help people in the developing world. And there's not a whole lot of investment going in that direction. And, BitGive is one of the few really, long-standing organizations that's actually doing work in the developing world and using Bitcoin to help people. And, there are others, like BitPesa is amazing. And there are other companies that are popping up in the developing world that are providing like remittance services or exchanges and things like that. But they're very few, and they're all trying to raise funding. They're all startups and they're raising, and, there's not a ton of investment going there. And then you see, tens of millions going into other companies that are looking at first world applications, We do need those too. It's all important. That's how an ecosystem functions, is there's different pieces and parts that all rely on each other. But there's really not a lot of investment going into the developing world. And, we're trying to do our best to do what's possible now with BitGive in those areas to show what the potential is with Bitcoin in the developing world. But I'd like to see a lot more, and we could scale so much more, not only if we had the resources, but also if the infrastructure was in place throughout the developing world for us to have liquidity, like with BitPesa, is really important. And until we can, build on top of services and places where not only can we raise funds in Bitcoin and actually transfer them using blockchain technology across the world for cheap, and securely and all of those things, they have to be able to convert them to a local currency or, in some way be able to use them for them to actually go towards an effort that's helpful.
There was something else that I was thinking about. We just got back from the Chicago Inside Bitcoins conference, which I really, really enjoyed. There was you had a new board member. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah.
And also, you were talking about the future of BitGive and a little bit about transparency. So can you talk to me a little bit about the future of BitGive?
Sure. Yeah, so we in Chicago, we launched what we're calling the Bitcoin Charity 2.0 initiative. And basically, it's just about taking everything to the next level and building on the technology more. So because we started so young and so early in the technology and in the industry, a lot of what we've been able to do is education and outreach, talk to nonprofits about what is Bitcoin, why should they care, how does it, benefit them, and raising funds in Bitcoin for nonprofits as part of that, sort of education and awareness and doing good and giving back. But now what we want to do is build on the technology more. So there's two main things that we're trying to do. One I was just kind of alluding to basically is that finding the places in the developing world where there is liquidity and actually transferring the funds on the blockchain and building projects in those areas. That's something that everyone talks about and you would think is easy to do and everywhere, but it's actually not because of the infrastructure isn't in place. So that's the first thing we're working on, is looking at pilot projects in the different places in the world where there is that liquidity and building strong relationships with the nonprofits in those places and doing projects transferring funds on the blockchain. And then the other part of it is, like you mentioned, transparency. So the blockchain anybody who's familiar with Bitcoin knows this, but I don't know your audience maybe doesn't know a lot about Bitcoin. You can see everything. It's transparent, and you can see everything on the blockchain. So what we're working on is actually building a donation platform for transparency of charity donations. And the Water Project, who we worked with to build the well, and I talked about how excited they are about Bitcoin. They really want to work with us. They're excited about this, and they want to be our partners and figure it out together, build the platform. We want to have like an actual like user interface online where people can see their donations and watch where they flow. And we're going to partner with BitPesa as well to show the money flowing there and where it all goes when someone makes a donation, how it splits out between BitGive and the Water Project and their team in the US, and then their partners who are in Kenya, and then buying the parts for the well and setting aside funding for the maintenance program and all of that stuff. And we want to build it in a way that's open source and hopefully white label, so it can be used by other nonprofits. And we hope that it'll really actually start to address some of the issues that we're hearing unfortunately about with like relief efforts in Haiti, and these huge stories that are coming out about billions of dollars being lost and thousands of homes that were supposed to have been built cannot be found, and that kind of thing. But I also want to use it as an opportunity to educate people that there's this sort of tendency to ask about, well, how much percentage do you spend on overhead, and people don't really understand like what that means and what it takes to do good work. So not only do we want to show transparency and we want to have accountability, but we also want to educate people that it does actually take money to do good projects. And you can't just pay for a well to be built and a well is built. There's actually a lot more that goes into that. If you want a good project and you want a sustainable project, you have to have good staff that knows what they're doing. You want to be able to retain them after you've invested in them. You want good products. You want good partners. All of these things take a lot of work. So I want to show both sides of the coin, that transparency and accountability is very important, but that there is also a lot that goes into doing good work, and it does take some money to have good staff and other things that cost money.
So you have also a special program too that people can participate with, and they could be lifetime founding members or something like that. Can you tell me about that before we wrap up?
A founding donors program, and we're probably going to wrap it up soon because it's a founding donors program and we're turning 2 years old. But it is for people to be recognized as founding donors of the BitGive Foundation, and it has different levels. So you can be a bronze, silver, gold, or platinum level founding donor. And we also have a membership program. So for individuals who want to participate and support BitGive, we have a membership program as well. And we're going to be rolling out some new things when we close the founding donors program. So we're looking at right now building out a 1% program, like the Salesforce model, which is basically a way for the industry and the companies in the industry to institutionalize philanthropy, and to do that through BitGive. So it's basically a pledge that companies can make to donate. It's 1% of your time, 1% of your product, and 1% of your profits to charity. So we're going to be rolling out something like that soon. I still have to get it all together, but and
also Purse.io, right? They're joining with you, and then people can redirect their a percentage of their Amazon purchases.
Yeah, so we have several integrations. Like we have one with Change Tip where you can redirect your tips to us, and then we have one with Purse where if you buy something on Purse, 0.5% of the purchase price will come to BitGive, and it's being sponsored by Libra right now. Chain was sponsoring it for the first 4 months, I believe, and now it's Libra. And if you sign up on Amazon Smile, you can also have BitGive be your charity there, and they will also donate 0.5%. So you basically can have the person who's buying whatever it is on Purse/Amazon can have 1% of the purchase price of what they bought donated to charity without it coming out of their pocket at all. It's paid for by Amazon for the 0.5% on their platform, and then it's matched by Libra on the Purse platform.
You know, I think sometimes people, they really want to donate, but times are really tough out there. So I think that's a great way to encourage them, and then they still feel like they're part of it. But also, they can send, I think that when you get a smile, right, with Amazon, you get a URL. And if they share that URL that directs the percentage to you guys at BitGive, they can share that with their friends and family. They could just pop it in their browser. Yes. So even people that don't know about Bitcoin or don't know about BitGive, this could be a great way to start a conversation with your family. If maybe they don't care about finance stuff or tech, maybe they care about philanthropy, and it's something that they could do really easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to buy something on Amazon, do it through Amazon Smile and sign up for charity, and then Amazon Smile donates to your charity of choice. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. And you have to be a 501c3, so there's lots of charities that probably aren't on there, but we are on there, so you can choose BitGive.
Well, I want to say congratulations on all the hard work that you've put in. I'm really glad to see that it's paying off.
Thank you.
Where can people go to find out more about the auction, which is the magic word, auction? And where can people find out about the auction? I know it's finishing.
Yeah, so my feed is frozen right now, so I don't know if you can hear me, but the auction, if you go to our homepage, is bitgivefoundation.org, and the very first thing you'll see is the auction. So the second thing you'll see is our Kenya video, because we have a slider that cycles through. Yeah, the auction closes on Wednesday, so definitely check it out.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll get this audio up on Let's Talk Bitcoin. If not, people can donate. What are you going to do if people don't donate on all the prizes?
We do still have a few that haven't been bid on, but not very many. Most of them have bids, and there's some that are really hot and people are really fighting over, and they keep getting, people are outbidding each other. It's pretty funny. Some of the popular things are really getting pretty crazy now that it's getting close to the end. So.
All right. Well, listen. Yeah, I'm really glad you were able to make it. Please follow Connie on Twitter, and go to the BitGive page, become a member, donate, do something, tell some friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm just going to wrap it up with everybody at home. Thank you to Liberty.me and LTB, of course, for having me. And next week, I'm not going to be on because there's an event in New York, so I'm not going to be able to do the show. But I've got a lot of really good guests coming up, including our friend Elise Colleen, a venture capitalist, also one of the smartest women that I know. She's going to be teaching people. Jake from LibreTax is going to be coming on because I'm trying to get my tax stuff for my business straightened out. And also, I was going to tell you before we got on this call, but things are really moving along nicely with Tatiana Coin. I haven't really been pushing it, but on the website, tatianarose.com, which we're also redoing, but you can go, you can buy Tatiana Coin right now, you can redeem it. We're still in alpha testing, but if people want to check it out, we're using Token Lee, and Counterparty, of course, made Tatiana Coin with me as well. So anyway, thanks everybody. I'll see you in 2 Mondays. Thanks, Connie, for being on, and I'll see y'all soon.
Sure. Hey,
Bye.
do you want the guys to come on or no?
No, the guys aren't going to come on. I'm going to have them on. We were going to have Rodrigo and Ali come on, but we're going to have them come on their own time, which will be a little bit better because they're working on some really cool top secret projects in the house that you are in as well.
Yes, the top secret project.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tatiana.
Take care. Bye-bye now. Please go to tatianarose.com or cryptomediahub.com for more information. Thanks.